On the last episode, we spoke to John Watson about the huge impact that COVID-19 has had on the Australian music industry, more specifically the live sector, which has gone from a $4 billion a year industry to $0 overnight. The four big touring players in Australia are Live Nation, Frontier, Chug and TEG, all fiercely competitive with each other under normal circumstances. However, COVID-19 has given them a common enemy, this virus, which has crippled everything Australians love most: music, comedy and sport. These four companies have come together to pen an open letter to the Morrison government, urging timely financial support to the music industry. They have asked for $650 million, not for themselves, but to support the thousands of staff and businesses they employ. The government provided $27 million, in which feels like you should be grateful type money. Yes, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't come close to what is needed. Today we speak to the man at the centre of it all, the CEO of the $1.3 billion TEG Australian business, Geoff Jones. TEG has the largest market share in Australia, and so Geoff is the leader taking both his company and arguably the live music industry as a whole through this crisis. Geoff, welcome.
Hey Luke, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you, more importantly?
Look, I'm hanging in there right. I'm not a fan of home detention or working from home. I'm trying to make the best of it, trying to keep connected with my people and our stakeholders and our colleagues. It's become more proficient with Zoom and getting used to working in the new normal at the moment.
Is everybody working from home at TEG?
Yeah, just about. We've got people go in there periodically. Our IT people to keep the engines oiled, but the majority all around the world in our various countries and businesses are all dominantly working from home.
So what's it like in the TEG offices now? Is it crisis with refunds and stressed, or is it quite empty and sort of there's not much to do? Like, what's the environment like?
Yeah, the environment's still very busy. Our Ticketek people are very busy doing refunds to the myriad of concerts that have been cancelled, and working with promoters and venues about rescheduling other concerts. So a lot going on there. We've settled into a rhythm now of meeting and discussing, and in a bizarre way, our focus is, I suppose it's not bizarre, it's what we've got to do is working and focusing on a post-COVID environment. So that's where a lot of my attention's going now. The here and now is the here and now. We've got to focus on the best way to come out of this thing.
And how do you see that post-COVID environment? What does that look like for you?
God, I wish I had a crystal ball. I see it in many dimensions. The hard thing about our industry is that we were the first to, almost the first of any industry to go from hero to zero when, where there was a ban on gathering. And we will be, I think, one of the last, together with things like tourism, to come back because of the natural lead and lag in live entertainment. So, we've got a lot of tough times ahead of us, not just for my business, but for every business, big and small, in this industry. So I wish I had a crystal ball. And my biggest single concern is travel, insofar as what we're allowed to do in a variety of businesses once this, the virus starts to dissipate a bit and things start to free up. So that is a major concern for us.
So let's just assume travel ban gets lifted. You can start bringing in international talent. Do you feel like it's going to be a lot harder or a lot easier to secure big stars after post-COVID?
Yeah, good question. I think it's both going to be easier and harder. I think harder insofar as a lot of artists, bizarrely, international artists, don't like flying, so they're going to like flying even less. They're people that have got a lot of pushes and pulls on their time and coming to our market, which is a really attractive and has been a really attractive touring market for international artists. They're going to have the pressures and pulls of touring in their own. If they're an American artist or a UK artist, they'll want to be touring there because they've had the same gap that we've had. Climatic conditions will help us a bit and hinder us as well, but it all depends when we come out of it. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I think they'll have a lot of pushes and pulls, and there'll be a lot of reticence on them to come. I'm fingers crossed. We've got a lot of tours locked in that we've postponed, as have other promoters. And the big but is, unfortunately, whether these artists will be able to travel. There is I have some trepidation about whether they'll be put into isolation when they arrive here, and that's not something that touring artists would be, one, used to, and two, would like to do. So there's a lot of trepidation in my view about international touring in the short to medium term. I'm buoyant about Australian touring. I think we are certainly focused on looking at it that way, as we always have. We always supported Australian artists, and we have got a lot of Australian tours that we're looking to lock in fairly quickly. But hopefully people will shop at home first, because we need to support our industry here, which has been a vibrant industry but has been crippled by this virus.
That was actually something John Watson said on the last podcast, where he says if it becomes harder for international artists to get here, it's going to provide more opportunity for Australian artists domestically. Is that how you're seeing it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's easy to get them going. The names are familiar. People at the end of this will have a cabin fever mentality that we all want to get out and socialise with our friends and family, go to shows, go to restaurants, shop, whatever we want to do. So I do think the opportunities for Australian artists will be bigger than they've ever been, and rightly so. And we need to be supportive of that and to think about that. And I'm certainly together with my colleagues, Paul Dainty and Tim McGregor and Scott Mercedes from MJR and Christo Van Egmont and Gary Van Egmont. We're working the phones with Australian artists as we speak.
When touring comes back, do you see a massive flood of content across the country, especially with all the other promoters having to make up budgetary gaps this COVID thing has left? Are you worried about literally a massive saturation of options for the Australian public?
Sure, that's a concern. I actually think it's interesting you say budgetary concerns. The budgets have gone out the window. The new normal is our business, the same as I would say virtually every business in the live space. We've gone from having our revenue to having no revenue. So that is a tough thing. So whether you're a small company, and I have together with my colleagues at the other big touring companies, we have great empathy for those small businesses, and I've spoken to many of those and know their plight. And we have huge empathy. But for the same token, my business, and I can't speak for the others, but I imagine we're all in very tough times, paying out money every month. There's no money coming in. And, that's not an easy situation. You have to make compromises, and inevitably you have to do things. And we have done things where people are, having to take pain in terms of, cuts to their salary or taking leave without pay for a period of time or more leave, etc. So, yes, I think there'll be an attempt for saturation. I think we've all got to be careful because, it's interesting how the consumer confidence will be on, the optimistic part of me says that people will want to come out and entertain themselves. And that is a truism. What better way to say, hopefully see the back door of this pandemic than to go to a live gig. But on the same token, there will be an element of the community that will have some reticence about doing that. So I just think we've got to be, judicious about the way we do things, careful and considerate. But I do think, I envisage, that we'll have great days again because the industry is so strong. It's such a great touring market and a great industry that it will come back. But hopefully it comes back sooner rather than later.
How many people at TEG do you currently employ?
Around the world, about 850 full-time people and many thousand people that sort of work for us in various ways, particularly for our ticketing company part-time. That doesn't include all the various contractors we use. We've got 850 people in 8 countries. All of them doing it tough. From our guys, our team in our ticketing company that we own in Manila in the Philippines. Just the whole of Manila is shut down completely. Those people haven't been at work for about a month. We're still employing them all. We're still paying them. Our UK business, it's quite interesting. The UK, who are right in the midst of it at the moment, they're booking acts right, left and centre, for when this is over. We own a number of venues, in a variety of cities in the UK, like Leeds and Bristol and Cardiff, etc. Those venues, come about, September, October are fully booked now. Fingers crossed things, sort out by that stage and they can get back to business. But, there's it's a whole variety of people, and all 850 are affected in some way. We've had to institute ways to save cash, and we haven't. We've kept everyone in employment in the main, but we have people are working lesser hours. And I got to say, the human spirit. I'm proud of our people, the leadership of our leadership team, and every individual TEG employee who was one, aimed up, has two, taken any news week they've had in their stride, and is three, continuing to work and to do what they do in conditions which are not normal for us. So I think the great thing about, if there's anything great about this pandemic, is that the human spirit is still alive, and that people realise we are in this together. The word unprecedented is thrown around all the time, but it is the right word to use, because these are truly unprecedented times. So, we will get through this as a company, and we'll come out stronger. In a bizarre way, it's a time now when there's a less tempo to plan well for the future, to tidy up things that we sometimes don't get to in the hurly-burly of doing business. So we're focused on those. We come out of this a better company, ready to go full steam ahead.
They say the economy in the world will never be the same again after COVID. How do you see your business being different post-COVID as opposed to pre?
I think it will take a while to ramp up again. No one's going to click their fingers and the Prime Minister's going to say, we're back to business one day, then we're back full steam ahead. It will come back, incrementally. It will come back not the way it was before, but the basic fundamentals of it, I believe, will come back better. I hope that that every element of the live environment, agents, etc., understand that, and nobody tries to take advantage of promoters, and by definition the public, by behaving irrationally or greedily. That is the human condition in many ways, and this industry has got many of those traits. So I'm not over about that, but I do think the business will come back. It will come back very strongly, and good a business to see. And what we've seen when people are flouting the rules of restrictions imposed by governments, by going to the beach or whatever, it's the fact that people want to get out together, and we're social beings in this digital world. So I do think it'll come back, but it will take time, and it won't come back all of a sudden.
It's really interesting you talk about greed, because fans are really concerned across all our channels, it seems, about ticket prices when they come back. Some are speculating they're going to be cheaper because there's going to be a sheer huge volume of content, and others are saying it's going to be a lot more expensive because, a lot of promoters and artist managers and agencies need to make up their lost ground in revenue. Where do you see it? How do you see it looking like?
Yeah, I think I can only talk for what we're going to do. Where our view will be that ticket prices will be the same or lesser, not more expensive. I think it's anyone who says it's going to be greater, I think, is living in some sort of parallel universe, because as I said, people will try to make up, but you cannot make up for the fact that essentially from when it was mid-February to whenever it ends, there's a big gap in your earnings and everything else. You just do your best, but we're not thinking in a view, we're going to make everything up and we're going to double the ticket prices. We're thinking that the ticket prices at best would be what we would have thought, but probably going to be lesser because let's be honest, people are suffering. A lot of people there's a lot of money going out of people's pockets. If there's a good side to this, and there's no good sides to this, believe me, but there is limited ways to spend your money at the moment, which hopefully for those people that are suffering, eases that burden a little bit. Hopefully they've got enough money to put food on the table. But look, I definitely don't see the ticket prices rising. I hope common sense will prevail. And we're certainly of a mindset, discussions we've had is certainly internally, our thinking is that people will not, prices will not go up.
I'm trying to work out the snowball effect here, because if you've got a bunch of artists who are suddenly going to be in huge demand, so all around the world, everyone's going to be wanting to put events and touring and all of that. So therefore, they're going to be able to put their prices up. And then parallel to that, we've got the Australian government printing billions of dollars to stimulate the economy, our Australian dollars going through the floor. So, if a certain international artist puts their price up by 10% and our Australian dollar falls 20%, things are 30% more expensive for Australian promoters. I don't know how, short of, you take promoters making less money and, the margins on it for these big concerts are already, like 5% in some cases, how are you going to be able to afford to reduce ticket prices? How are you going to afford to even be able to keep ticket prices the same?
Yeah, okay, a lot of points here, and they're good points. The foreign exchange is a real concern. The big drop in our dollar, which I think today is tracking around 62 cents. That's not good. Clearly, we want it above 70 cents and obviously higher. The funny thing about it, when a promoter puts an offer in, they're typically not that different. And the one variable, the typical variable is in the ticket price the promoter puts it down as part of their offer. I think a lot of artists and managers, I actually think they will act responsibly, and they'll realise that I don't want our tickets to go out at ridiculous prices, because the fans will revolt in some way. So I think there'll be a bit of common sense there, and I think that the other promoters, and I think we certainly will act rationally. So I hear the concern, and the people will choose what they think will not go to. If shows are ridiculously priced, we're seeing a price sense, elasticity coming into the fore in recent about the last year. So people are being more sensible about ticket prices, and so I think I understand people being concerned. I hope companies and the whole system, including the agents and managers, and obviously by definition the artists, will act sensibly. Promoting is a very, very tight margin game. And I think promoters, are clever enough to actually, none of us start out wanting to lose money on a tour, and we're not going to tour for the sake of it to lose money. So, I hope common sense will prevail. And make no mistake, for a period of time there will be, and I don't quite know what they are, but there'll be changed conditions in the way we as a promoter, and presumably other promoters, will interact with agents and managers in terms of, how contracts are done, and, concerns, because the whole world of, getting insurance for an act and just the travel conditions and all that sort of stuff is sort of thrown out the window to some extent. And we've almost got to reset this game to a fair extent, in my view.
Live Nation, Frontier, Chuggy, you guys are all very competitive in normal conditions. How much have you guys started coming together and talking, if at all?
We've had on the initiative, I'll give a lot of credit to Roger Field from Live Nation, and he was a good catalyst to that letter we all co-signed. I was very proud of it. We got a really good reaction in the spirit of the fact that we're bigger companies, and we are genuinely concerned for the smaller businesses. You mentioned in introduction about I think $27 million from the government today for the industry. 10 million of that going to Support Act for mental health issues, and that money is highly, highly needed. So I think we're not talking every day, because one, we don't need to, and we are fierce competitors, but we're all in this together, and I think there's draw the lines of demarcation for a while, and just think about it as human beings, and that's certainly the way I'm approaching it, and our people. Our concern is for our own people. Our concern is for our community, and ultimately our business. And we want to have a business to come back to. We will have a business to come back to. We're not going anywhere, but we want that to be in as good a shape as we can possibly have it. So, that's the way we look at it. And I certainly commend all those guys. So they too care deeply about the business. All of those guys have been ensconced in this industry for many, many more years than I have, and kudos to them.
Geoff, you recently sold the business for $1.3 billion to private equity. They bought this amazing Australian company which is firing on all cylinders, and suddenly the company that they bought is now gets $0 in revenue in no time. What's the conversation been like?
I talk to our partners, the owners, Silver Lake, just about every day in a very really common sense way. They're a massive player in both live entertainment and in the broader private equity world. They've got they actually made an announcement yesterday, our time or the day before, I think, that they've just invested $1 billion US, $1 billion into Airbnb, and that they're working on another $16 billion US fund. Their view is, this is every one of their portfolio companies is in one way or other, affected by this pandemic. They are very, very supportive people. They trust myself and our management team to keep our costs to the minimum in this while we're hunkered down here. But they're working with us every day in looking to the future and how we're going to come out of this. What businesses we might look to buy, and where it's no secret that they bought us with the view that we wanted to grow this company. And since they've done that, we're expanding ourselves, and we are looking at a whole range of acquisitions. Not just in Australia and New Zealand, but in Europe and the UK and Asia, etc. So we're still looking at that. So we're looking to the future. We're being careful. We're being about stuff, but we're being no less interested in the future. So I commend them. Yes, they bought us in about closed at about mid-November. And first we had the bushfires, which affected us. Now we've had a pandemic. So it hasn't been a halcyon run since they've owned us, but I can't speak more highly of the way they've approached it.
So are they looking? Are they seeing this period now as an opportunity for acquisition on valuations? Because obviously valuations everywhere would be taking a hit, right?
Yeah, look, in one sense, we're not vultures. We're not going to go out there and wait for people to go to the wall and say, listen, we'll buy for nothing. That's not their style nor our style. We are already talking to, I've got a number of acquisition discussions in train. And some of those acquisitions were, we just sort of agreed price before this. So we're the sort of people who will, if nothing else, I think, we're people of our word and of integrity, and we're going to honour those deals. We will look like anybody for, inverted commas, if there's any bargains out there. But we're not sort of vultures feeding off the carcass of, businesses that go to the wall. We want to try to help whichever way we can for some of those businesses. Every day of the week at interactions I have, the people who reach out and realise that our business has gone from really struggling as well. But people have genuine empathy, which is a nice thing. And I have empathy with every part of our industry because I know how hard it is for all of them. So, we will plan and we will work really hard and we will think to the future, because that's the main thing we've got to focus on now is the future, not on the past. And on the current, we work on keeping the lights on and doing what we've got to do and doing the things that, inevitably pop up, but use this as a really unique time to plan and do stuff that we otherwise would not get the time to do.
And what kind of companies are you looking at?
All sorts. We're looking at venues in the UK. We're looking at a variety of businesses in continental Europe. We're looking at some content companies in our region. We're looking at ticketing sort of businesses in Asia. All sorts of different things. Things that are adjacent to the sort of the TEG model. We're sort of more and more. We've now got. We've recently acquired the Gary Van Egmont's business, now known as TEG Van Egmont. So we're collaborating with other promoters. We are very interested in looking forward, and we love content of all types, music, sport, all sorts of different content, and we will continue to do that because content is what this business is built on. We're looking at all sorts of businesses, big and small, different types of collaborations, not necessarily buying the whole lot. But there's all sorts of things we're doing.
Content means a lot of things to a lot of different people. What do you define as content?
I think, contents, it does. You're very true. I talk about content in that context. There is live performance of some ilk. So we are very much into concerts. Both, we focus, with Paul Dainty's business, TEG Dainty. We focus on big tier one acts and emerging acts, and what I sort of call the podcast generation through our partnership with Nice Events and Brad Drummond. TEG Live focuses on sport, concerts at tier one, tier two, tier three. We're very happy, and TEG Live has done a lot of, Australian tours of Australian artists and will continue to do so. TG Van Egmont's looking at a whole range of both tier one, tier two, and tier three concert tours. MJR, who we acquired in August of last year, they do everything from highly successful reggae festival in February at the Gold Coast to smaller acts from 500 to 2,000 people. And they're continuing to work in that sort of range. So we look at that. And so that's why I talk about content is actually live performance content. We obviously get into digital content and others, but in that context, I'm talking about live performance.
In November last year, you told the Industry Observer you were looking to acquire small venues. No longer were you looking at arenas and things like that, but you were looking at small venues. And I feel right now in this climate, the smaller venues are the ones that would be hurting the absolute most. How much have you been in dialogue with smaller venues around the country during this time?
Not much at all. We were looking at small venues in that context. I was looking at it predominantly in the UK and Europe. We will look at opportunities for everything. In this country, there is no real scope. We're the owners of Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney, but there isn't real scope to look at big venues. I will say there's no doubt the small venues are hurting, but I would also say the big venues, even from the biggest stadiums, and our own arena, our arenas are going to no revenue. This is touching everybody. So no one, in the live space. This is where I think, our friends in the government have got to realise that this industry has totally and utterly been challenged by the fact that there's nothing happening, and all of the various parts, the catering and everything, all the other ancillary businesses that feed off the live entertainment industry are equally suffering. So we have got a major problem, and recognition of that. The job keeper initiative by the government, I applaud that. That's certainly helped my company, as I imagine it's helped many, many companies, and I commend them for that. That was a shot in the arm that was greatly needed. So look, venues, we're very open to that. We're very open to small venues. We're very open to looking at different ways of doing business. We don't necessarily, I think I've said, don't necessarily want to become a venue operator in Australia, but we'll never say never to anything.
Do you think there will be a consolidation of companies at the back of this?
Not quite sure yet. Early days. There's been a reasonable consolidation of promoters over the time. I think there'll be continue to be more and more collaborations. Will there be a consolidation? Typically in tough times, smaller businesses get absorbed by bigger businesses. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I may be wrong. I think, because the reality is the big businesses are suffering the same way the small businesses are suffering. So it's all in different dimensions and different levels, but we're all suffering. You hear, what was it? I read this morning StubHub Eventbrite sacked 45 of its people globally. I think that's after a whole lot of retrenchments months ago. You see that, read that StubHub, which was just acquired, I think for $4.25 billion US, is in real trouble because all of its revenue's gone away. You don't know. You read something into those. You don't always read the truth into those stories. But big companies are suffering too. So a lot of big companies haven't arguably got a lot of money to spend. Their money at the moment would be on self-preservation. Now, we're lucky in a way in that we're well capitalised by our owners, and we have funds aside for acquisitions. So we're arguably in a good spot. As I say, we're not vultures. We're fair people, and anytime you go into a partnership, the experience I've had is you want to leave something on the table for the other guy because otherwise they'll resent the partnership or the deal or that whatever. So I think you want to try to behave like a proper human being. I'm old enough to remember I was in this job roughly when the GFC of 2008. Sort of 9 came around, and you saw really bad behaviour by people who were struggling financially. We will see that again because it's inevitable in the human condition. They won't mean to behave badly, but that will be a byproduct. I think this is very different to the GFC because not everyone was affected the GFC the way everyone is affected here. But it's something we just need to be very mindful of.
Geoff, you've got just under 1,000 people in your company. How many of them directly report into you?
Too many at the moment. There's about 15 report to me. We're looking to try to restructure that a little bit. But as we just grow and it's a very tactile industry, particularly when you're talking about content and people in different countries. So I've got people reporting to me from 5 different countries directly. So that's how many got reporting directly to me. And
of those reports, who do you spend the most time with, and who is what is the department or territory that's giving you the most concern or requiring the most of your attention? I spend the most time always with my CFO, and I still spend a lot every day talking to her multiple times. I spend a lot of time with Cameron Hoy, who runs tech for us. A lot of time with Paul Dainty and Tim McGregor run TEG Dainty and TEG Live, planning for the future, talking about things. Richard Buck, who runs TEG MJR out of the UK, spent a hell of a lot of time talking to him at late at night or early in the morning because that's a very dynamic business and one that we're putting a really massive focus on. So our MD of Asia, who's out of Singapore, speak to him a couple of times a day. So really regularly with everybody, trying to keep connected. I've said to my guys, it's a time we've got to be connected, if nothing else, to check on each other and to keep doing what we're doing. No one particularly worries me. No area worries me more than other. This is not discriminating across any country. I'm obviously more focused on Australia because at the moment Australia is still by far the biggest part of our business, and so it warrants the most of my attention and it gets the most attention. But I'm equally concerned about everybody, and because we have this aspiration to grow ourselves into being a global company, always based in Australia. Where Australia is our centre of gravity and our key market, and that's there. But we've got to be focused on the whole shooting match. And what kind of manager are you, Geoff? Do you like to get into the detail? Do you just want the high level? What tell me about your management style. I suppose others could judge that. I like to say that I say to my people, if everyone wrote on my epitaph, what would they say? Well, they'd say plenty of things, but I think they'd say that I cared. I genuinely care authentically for my business and my people. So I think people realise that I don't speak crap. I don't have agendas. If I say something, I mean it. If I say I'm going to do something, I do my best to do it. I'm a human being and I make lots of mistakes, but I try to make as few as possible. I'm in it with my guys. I won't ask them to do anything I'm not prepared to do myself, and particularly this time. I think I work hard. I certainly, I'm certainly don't die wondering and understanding the business and trying to work with these guys.
a picture of success for me with any of the people that work with me is that I have nothing to do with their success because I'll get the reflected glory. I don't care about my own personal brand, or I don't care about pontificating in the public domain. I'll leave that to others. That's not how I'm wired. I'm wired to the success of our business and every part of our business being as good as they can be. So I think I'm definitely in the detail, but I'm also big picture. The one thing I wouldn't say enjoyed, because I haven't enjoyed anything about this pandemic, but one thing has been I've had more time to think and plan for the future, which hopefully is something that will hold myself and our company in good stead. But I've got tremendously dedicated people, a real potpourri of different types of skill set and competencies, and they're all rising to the occasion. We're meeting weekly for a couple of hours, and we all have, each of us has a work in progress meeting every week as well. So we're keeping well connected and we're focusing on the issues.
Geoff, we ask every CEO or executive this question on the podcast, and that is, what is the biggest mistake you've made as a leader? And tell us what we can learn from that mistake.
Well, I wish I knew that question was coming.
Without notice is my brand.
Yeah, that's great. The question without notice is a good one. Look, I make mistakes every day. Biggest mistake, I think I can't pinpoint. It's not that I haven't made mistakes. I always ask people in interview, tell us your three biggest strengths and your three biggest weaknesses, and it's not a weakness to have weaknesses. I think at times you'll back. I've backed some businesses that haven't, elements of our businesses that haven't worked, which sound like a good idea. So I've backed things, and I've had plenty of live content projects gone really poorly. We've had a lot more that have gone well, but I regret an element of our business that I got into a couple of years ago, big mega global exhibitions that at the time I didn't regret it. After the results of it, these things where we took exhibitions to London, New York, Chicago, Tokyo, all over the world, we lost a lot of money. So I probably regret that because whilst it sounded like a great idea, we didn't do the amount of analytical research that we should have done to make sure that it wasn't good. So that was a fiscal mistake that I made. But again, what it does, you learn a lesson from it. Make sure you actually just don't back your gut, that you actually get fact-based argument to support your premise, and as best you can. This is an industry that's both an art and a science, and we're trying with touring artists, whatever, to bring as much science to it as we can. And this is all about timing, and we hope to get the timing right. Timing is going to be, to one of your earlier questions about everyone's going to want to go on tour and there'll be an absolute tsunami of activity. We just got to make sure that we make really clever decisions based on facts and the best discussion and analysis we can do.
I spoke to one record label executive who told me confidentially their KPIs internally are 1 in 13. So they're in the betting business. They bet on talent they love. 1 in 13 will come off, and if that happens, they're cheering. It works. What is the model for promoters? Because obviously everything's not going to work. What is your model? Like, what success rate are you happy with?
We don't put it that way. We endeavour to make the artist, management, and agent that had trusted us to do the tour. So I think when we started off, before we'd acquired TG Dainty and subsequently all these other businesses in the touring world, when we were just TEG Live, we were at a tempo where we could really focus and bring our, I think, unique digital marketing and our data analytics skills to bear to ensure that tours, really maximised their return. We brought different thinking to it and a different approach to it, not just in a marketing sense, but bringing other, brand partnerships to the fore, etc. So, at times I think we haven't lost that, but because we've got bigger and we've got so many tours going on at any one time, that personal ownership touch goes a little bit. So we've got to be careful that we don't just one cap fits all. we had a tour the other in TG Live where I looked at, for some reason, the marketing budget came to me, which these days probably doesn't come to me that often. And I noticed on this tour we'd spent 40% of our marketing budget on outdoor. So, billboards and posters. And I said, why did we do that? I said, this artist is a digital artist where he would engage with his fan base through every form of digital advertising or marketing channel, not through large format outdoor or billboards. And it was, to me, I think our guys had got what I call the cookie cutter approach. They'd done a bit of digital, a lot of digital, because we always do a lot of digital, a bit of radio, and very big bit of outdoor. And I was really upset to see that, because I don't think they were thinking, because the demographic of this artist was dominantly females, probably 15 to 25, and I don't think they're big billboard exponents. So anyway, so I think that's something we need to be really mindful of. And so our ratio, I think our ratio now is we try to, I don't really know, but 8.5 out of 10 we get right. And on the 1.5, maybe, that's not a precise number, but the 1.5 you don't get right, you try to stem the bleeding as best you can, and we're pretty good at doing that. But we certainly don't win every time.
And
wish we did.
Is that then how you KPI promoters? So if a promoter's getting 6 out of 10s every year, do you just go, mate, enough's enough?
We don't KPI them that way. We certainly look at them. If things don't, if things. And look, we made a big mistake as a company with this festival we tried to get up Sanctions at the Gold Coast. It was supposed to be there in the beginning of December. We lost a lot of money out of that. We thought it was a great idea. We worked on it for a couple of years. We thought we had a very expensive, and we thought on market bill, but it was not selling. And we got forced off the beach by the court of public opinion, or elements of the court of public opinion, and we lost a lot of money. So in consultation with Paul Dainty, we made the hard call to say, listen, we're going to lose a lot of money here. We've already lost a lot, but if we keep going, we'll lose a hell of a lot more. So we quit the concert, refunded all the people who bought tickets. And whilst we don't have our tail between our legs, we learned some good lessons in that, and we learned the lessons that just because it sounds like a good idea doesn't mean it is. Building a festival, which was our first real foray into one, particularly a big festival. They're not all beer and skittles. It's a hard work, and building a brand is really hard in that sphere. And I commend those festivals that have they've still got their big brand and have done great. We continue to evolve, and we want to innovate, be known to be innovative and imaginative. Try different formats, think differently about the way we do our business. Don't just keep wheeling the same thing. And I think to a large extent we'll continue to do that.
Geoff, thank you so much. I want you to leave us with the thing that you're most proud of that you've achieved in your career, and the thing you're most excited about in the future.
I'm just proud of the fact that I hope over a long career in this is my seventh job in my working career, that I have hopefully maintained my honour and integrity. Others can judge it, but that's what I always try to do. And what I'm most excited about is, I love what I do. Every day I love going to work, or love getting up and going to my my office at home now, as it may be. I love the variety in the industry we work in. I love the fact that every day is different. I still have plenty of passion, and what I'm most excited about is the next sort of however long I can go for, but at least 5 years, if not more, to keep doing what we're doing and be proud of the. For me, it's been proud of the business we've created in TEG, and making sure that we're true to what we set out to do.
Geoff, thank you very much for your time. This is Fear at the Top. You can listen to all the past episodes if you go to the Industry Observer website and click podcasts, or follow us on any of the platforms. Geoff, thank you so much for your time. Very honoured, extremely insightful given the current climate, and I hope you can provide a lot of hope for the artist managers out there who are feeling pretty down and beat right now. And the fact that you're so buoyant and you've got a very clear plan means not only is artist revenue looking good coming up, but that means the artist managers and the agents and all of that will be able to get a living again soon. So thank you, Geoff.
Right, Luke. Thank you for your time, mate. Take care. Good luck to everybody. Keep well.